Yep.
And I think one of the things that I love to do is take somebody, get you to really, really, really care about them, and then maybe things don't work out for them, right? Like it's
Mhm.
not a spoiler to say that Poppy dies in
Right.
this book, you know.
Welcome to Book Reporter Talks To, where our guest today is Julie Clark, and we're going to be talking about her latest thriller, The Ghostwriter. It's a Book Reporter Bets On selection, as were her two prior books, The Last Flight, which I remember following her around and talking about at a conference,
Yeah.
The Lies I Tell. And I remember that first conference where everybody was talking about The Last Flight, as soon as you like walked away. A reviewer of Rebecca Monroe had this to say about it. Oh, how I enjoy this intricately plotted, metatextual thriller. Clark is a master of sleight of hand and redirection, yet we still soak up every word. It may only be the first week of June, but it's definitely not too soon to call The Ghostwriter the thriller of the summer. When I sit and hear notes like that, I say, yes, I agree. And with that intro, welcome, Julie. So good to see you again.
Nice to be here, Carol.
Well, and it's nice to be like a little hiatus on tour at this point. Do you go back out again?
Yeah. I have about 10 days and then I'm out again.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Home and then back out.
Mhm.
So let's start by you giving us an overview of the ghostwriter.
So The Ghostwriter is the story of Olivia Dumont. She's a ghostwriter, and she has tanked her career. She had made her career ghostwriting books about women who've sort of broken the glass ceiling in whatever field they're in. And with one comment on a panel, she's pretty much been canceled. She's about to lose her house. She's not able to pay her bills. When her agent calls her with a very unusual job, Vincent Taylor, the famous horror author, wants her to ghostwrite his last book. And Olivia does not want to take this job for a lot of reasons. The main reason being that Vincent Taylor is her estranged father. Nobody knows this.
Hmm.
So she, she kind of feels forced to do this. But what the whole world does know is that Vincent Taylor is maybe even more famous for being the only suspect in the killing of his older brother and younger sister in 1975. So when Olivia arrives in Ojai, which is where she grew up and her father still lives, she finds out pretty quickly that it's not a novel that he wants her to write. It is the memoir of what happened in 1975.
And it's like, get to the house, and Dad, we're going to go back in time. And so, what was their inspiration? Where did the idea come from?
It the inspiration is based on an idea of like what would happen to three siblings if two of them died suddenly, tragically, horrifically? What happens to that remaining sibling, right? Like how do they grow up? Who do they become? What kind of trauma do they carry forward? And while that is a very interesting, maybe literary concept or an upmarket, concept, it's not enough for a thriller. So obviously, I'm going to have that middle sibling grow up to be a recluse horror author who is obviously the only suspect in this brutal crime. And so the unraveling of that is really Olivia's job. And her father is diagnosed with Lewy body dementia, so he is not at all reliable and has forbidden her from talking to anybody else. So she's kind of stuck. She's got to protect her reputation by writing a truthful book. She's got to prove herself by writing a good, truthful book. And her father only wants her to work off of what he's given her, which is 30 legal pads of absolute nonsense.
Just ramblings, loose thoughts, whatever. Let's
Right.
talk real quick about Lewy body dementia because sadly, my business partner died of it a couple of months ago, and I had
Mm,
never heard of it before he was diagnosed last August. And when you wrote about it, like immediately, I remember I dropped you a note and said, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, this and
yeah,
things."
yeah.
And what inspired you to use that? Because it's not something well known as far as.
No, and I think that's part of the reason why I wanted to use it. Everybody's familiar with Alzheimer's, everybody's familiar with Parkinson's, everybody's familiar with all of the other things. I needed a very specific illness though that would have frequent hallucinations.
Mhm.
And Lewy body is definitely one where hallucinations are sort of an early indicator that that might be a condition that you have. So, but I had a friend whose father died from Lewy body maybe like 2 years ago. And I just remember him talking about it all the time and having to come home to take care of his dad. His other siblings were helping out, and everybody needed to do that, as take their time to help their dad. He had a wonderful caretaker similar to Alma.
Mhm.
Um, and I just felt like um, I wanted more people to know about it.
Hmm. Hmm. And it's also the way it reacts, the hallucinations, but also him at some point saying, I just don't remember it all. Like, I can't
Yeah,
even
yeah,
tell you what ended up happening here. I can't help you. And then
right,
she's trying to write this memoir where he has the 30 pads of kind of nonsense that she's trying to figure out. She's trying to get him to have that moment of clarity. She's
right.
looking for, so we're all looking for the moment with her of what happened, but she's looking for it from him. And I thought it was such a brilliant juxtaposition of what she's looking for and what we're looking for, the answers.
Right, right. Yeah, and I really wanted her to have to fight for it, right? Like he's not
Mhm.
going to make it easy for her, and he definitely doesn't.
Mm-mm.
And he's not truthful, not truthful purposefully, but also not truthful accidentally, because that's just what is the disease.
Hmm. And there are times where his caretaker says, you just need to leave. Like, I'll
Yeah,
calm this down. I'll fix this.
yeah.
You can come back tomorrow and you're going to get a different person. But today I need to take care of this person. So
Hmm.
Livin's 44 years old and she hasn't seen her father in 3 decades, which is really interesting. And she's been, off the grid of what she's been doing, living her life. Yet they are in the same profession, but in different ways. And
Hmm.
I think she's trying to understand him as a writer, as well as she's trying to understand what she's doing telling the story. Am I onto something there? Because they're both.
Yeah, I mean, I felt like she followed in her father's footsteps and didn't follow in his footsteps, right? Like he
Mhm.
is the splashy star, he's the name on the cover, he's the one interviewed everywhere, and Olivia is writing equally great books. However, she is not on the cover. She doesn't want to be on the cover. She doesn't want to be in the acknowledgments. She doesn't want to go on tour. She doesn't want any of that. She just wants to write good books. And
Mhm.
so it's like they're the same, but they're different.
Yeah. And also you think that he'd made so much money by this point, by what he's done. And he sits there and he's like, there's nothing. And she says, but the house. And he says, it's not worth anything. It's remortgaged. It's whatever. And you realize he was living an illusion in a
Yep.
lot of ways, living off the illusion of his success, if that makes sense.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and like I think that it's pretty common for, dare I say, men with big egos who think
Hmm.
that, their success is going to last forever, and especially in writing, where, as you know, it can be fleeting, it can
Hmm.
come and go, it can, you know, visit you once and then disappear for 20 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, it's just there's never a time where any writer I know is like confident and
Hmm.
like, I mean, maybe Stephen King.
Yeah.
But like,
You have a lot of TV deals. If you have a lot of TV deals, maybe you
I
feel.
think so. But I also think like, you also have to spend your money wisely. I would think even Stephen King would say that, right? Like, don't be
Right.
stupid.
Yeah, and it's that also, but it's the passion for telling stories.
Mhm.
And if you don't do well enough, nobody wants you to tell your stories. And what you
Right.
are is a storyteller. And
Right.
that's what she was. She, got wrapped up in saying something the wrong. And as a result, this person is now coming after her for a lot of money. She's got a lot of legal fees. She's losing the house. Everything's not going well. And yet he hands her these notebooks and he tells her, I know you can't talk to anybody. You're just supposed to like ingest what I've written and come up with something like that. Being a ghostwriter, though, an awful lot of times you're told who you can speak with, and you can't speak with everybody. You can speak
Yes.
with this one who's going to tell the story, or you can massage it. And she's at a point where, wait, do I really want to be doing this? Because I don't even know who I'm talking to here. What's going on?
Right. And she doesn't know whether what he's telling her is real or part of his disease.
Right.
And she is used to being able to fact check, right? So she would take a situation, he would tell her what happened, and in an ideal situation, she would then go talk to the other people who were there and pull everybody's stories together to kind of narrow down to what the truth would be.
Hmm.
But if he's not letting her talk to any of the other people who were there, or even let them know that he's working on a memoir, which I understand that,
Yeah.
but she's only stuck with his version, which is not going to be good.
Hmm. Hmm. And he's got this line, no regrets, no looking back. That's what
Mhm.
he says. So
Mhm.
he really has no regrets about his life. He's not looking back. He's just moving forward. But meanwhile, she's got to talk about all the things that he might have had regrets about at some point, even though he doesn't feel that now. And I thought it was such a great line in the
Mhm.
book of no regrets, no looking back,
Mhm.
just let's
Mhm.
move on.
Back it up, right? Like life is hard, and nobody would know that better than Vincent Taylor. You
Right.
know?
Well, yeah. And it's like, yeah, this happened. I was blamed. What am I going to do? Blah, blah, blah. And
Right.
there's this great line that 10-year-old Olivia learns about her father. And I know what your dad did. Your dad killed his brother and sister, murdered them in their own home. And this is what she knows. And he's an author, a near professional drunk, and now is he a murderer? And picture being 10 years old and hearing that from people about your father. And I thought
Yeah.
that moment where we just back up and hear what she's been hearing her whole life, that what's going wrong with him, it was such a brilliant way to put a character in a kid's head of, wait,
Mhm.
this is one of the most important people in my life and I can't trust him. Yeah.
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 Yeah. And then he goes on to prove it again and again.
Yeah. Again, yes, exactly. You wrote from three point of views, and was one easier than the other?
Poppy was the easiest and my most favorite.
Yeah, I could tell. I
Um,
could tell you loved writing her. I could just tell the way, not that the other words don't go well on the page, but hers,
no,
there's some
hers
joy in
just
it.
fine. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
there's some joy. What was it like going back and writing about 1975? Because it was so dramatically different than now.
It worked for what I needed it to be, right? Like I wanted Poppy to be some big activist, and she was right in the middle of all of it.
Yeah,
And I think one of the things that I love to do is take somebody, get you to really, really, really care about them, and then maybe things don't work out for them, right? Like it's
mhm,
not a spoiler to say that Poppy dies in
right.
this book. She does not make it past 14.
Mm-mm,
Um, and it's tragic to see her sort of um be so hopeful and excited about the future for women and all the things that she's going to get to do that her mother never could do, and all of the access that she's anticipating women will have. And like, I think people now are like, oh, bless. Okay. Like, okay, Poppy. But like, it's sad. It's really sad. And it is like, maybe I'm heavy-handed with it, but I don't care because I
mm-mm,
feel like it's something that should be heavy-handed, which is
mhm,
that women still don't have access to the things that we should and we've been fighting for. And I'm not even going to talk about, women of color, but
mhm,
just women in
mhm,
general are
mhm.
still making 70 cents to the dollar.
And that is crazy to think about. And considering that, when I went out to work in the 70s, the late
Right.
70s,
Right.
that was the norm. And to think that it
Yeah.
still exists is really crazy. The
Hmm.
other thing about those times is, and I'm reading another book that is set, Janelle Brown's book, and I'm
Oh,
reading,
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
and really,
That's a
you're
good
thinking
one.
about before the internet happened. And look, we were at the beginning in with AOL. Believe it,
Yep.
we launched a site on AOL. The art was about that big, and you just couldn't do anything. So I was loving hearing what people were thinking about it's going to change the world and how it really has changed the world. And when you
Mhm.
bring in Poppy's camera, where she's shooting videos, but the videos have no sound, the like it how long can you actually, film something or whatever? It was such a special moment to me because it reminded me of making cassette tapes with your
Yeah.
favorite songs on them.
Yeah. And
And
hitting record at just the right moment. Yeah.
so that you could make like sending a letter off to somebody with all the special songs, and you'd
Yeah.
sit for hours doing this stuff, which right now you would put that song up and go click, 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 and be done in maybe 45 minutes, maybe if you
Or
know
less. Yeah.
what you're doing. And I just thought that when you brought out the part about the camera, like we saw the 70s as you were bringing it as cultural, but just this one little thing that she was just out taking her little movies all along the place. It was
Mhm.
that there's those little those touch points that when you're talking about a certain time and you just say, oh, that's what the camera was like, oh, that's
Yeah.
what this is.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was crazy days. I mean, when you think about the immediacy of now, I mean, think about you can call somebody and be seeing them on your phone and talking to them at the same time. There's WhatsApp. You can call Europe for free. I mean, I
Mhm.
remember toll calls that were like ridiculous. I
Oh, yeah.
go,
Yeah.
are you kidding?
Yeah. Yeah. I remember well.
Yeah, exactly. And how about the treasure hunts that her father used to put together too? So let's talk about the treasure hunts.
Well, I mean, it was definitely a huge part of his relationship with Poppy,
Mhm.
and the game that they used to love to play. And I wanted him to want to carry that forward and do that for Olivia as well, and just fail miserably at doing it, right?
Mhm.
And just, you know, it was something that was so special for him and Poppy, and he wants it to be special for Olivia, but he doesn't understand that, like, there are so many other things that he needs to be doing first
Mhm.
before she's going to value a treasure hunt, right? Right
Right.
now, it's a treasure hunt to just like give her things, and
Right.
she doesn't want things. And, she doesn't care what he picks up at the airport. She would rather have him,
Mhm.
and so, and he wasn't always a bad dad.
Mhm.
When she was young, she does remember him being quite attentive and quite fun and quite amazing. And so the loss of him, I think, is as harmful for her as just sort of the trauma inside their family.
Yeah, the trauma of everything that's going on.
Yeah.
When we talk about women and empowering women and whatever, there's a conversation between the editor, the agent, and Olivia.
Mhm.
And it's one of those moments where he's telling her, the editor is telling her, I need the book and I
Yeah.
need it on July. And she's like, I don't think I can do July. He's going,
Hmm.
but I need it in July. And
Hmm.
he's going, and I need to see things up front because I need to see what you're writing up front. And it was this really interesting moment because she's a woman. Should she say no? Should she
Hmm.
say this is what you're going to do? Because if she did this, and I love this line, she speaks out as women, we're labeled hysterical, emotional, unreliable, or incompetent. Truth? Yes.
Yeah.
If you
Yeah.
ask for anything, it's
Yeah.
why are you doing this? You know?
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, her reputation is resting on this book.
Mhm.
And so they're asking her to do something she can't do. She's explained to them why she can't do that. And yet they're still saying, too bad, figure it out. Right. And
Mhm.
so it's almost like they're setting her up to fail. And
Mhm.
it's almost like they want her to fail so they can give the book to someone else.
Yes, yes. And she's seen something of what she thinks they want to do. And it's
Mhm.
something that I'm not going to give anything away. It's somebody who's hurting her in another way. So it's like,
Yeah.
okay, is this really what the game is here? It's
Mm-hmm.
it's so funny because I'm often told I'm blunt. And they say, Carol, you're just so blunt because you just say, and I said, I don't have time to be anything else.
Oh, yeah.
Yet,
Yeah.
if you are, it's often seen of you're either demanding or um you're just sitting there like a little bit arrogant about the way you feel. But if a guy said the same thing, I think he'd get away with it in 2 seconds
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
probably be seen as sharp and smart.
Sure. Yeah. Competent. Hmm.
Confident. But I did love because she's also asking if I don't do this, how much money do I have to pay back? Like, do I have to pay back the advance because she's kind of living on that right now and paying some bills off that right now? So
Hmm.
the way publishing is structured is you get some money up front, and if that money's not there, she's a little bit panicked about the whole thing. And mostly sitting down, I've got this stack of notebooks that mean absolutely nothing, and I've got to tell a story with a man
Hmm.
who can't tell me any memories. So,
Hmm. Yeah.
yeah.
Go.
Yeah, go, go, go. And then her father says that her mother is the best thing that ever happened to him. And she's looking at these two people that have been divorced. And she's like, what? This is not comprehending at all. And it's better than any of the books he's written or any of the awards he's won, which is a pretty amazing thing given where he is as far as being a well-renowned author. They've been split for this really long time. And I think it's one of the most interesting lines in the book for people who have been apart that long, because that woman really meant that much to him and shaped him, I guess, in many, many ways. Did you always see that that was going to be their relationship going forward? Did you play with it? You saw it.
No, I did. I did. Yeah. I mean, honestly, like nobody could figure out why she was with him in 1975 either, so he was lucky to have her. She has her own issues. She's got her own trauma. But, he was lucky to have her, I think.
Yeah, 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 yeah. So when you sit down to write, did you have the whole story in your head? Did you
No,
know where you're going? No.
no, no. I mean, I knew how it was going to end because I always have to know how it's going to end.
Okay.
I know sort of where that middle point is, where the shift is from, reaction to action. But other than that, no, I really don't. I really
You
don't.
didn't. So
Yeah.
you just, I know you get up really early to write. I know you
Mhm.
get up really early in the morning to write. When you leave to go, you teach. When you go to leave to teach, are you usually stopping at a place where it's still going in your head or
Yeah, yeah. That it makes it easier for me to go back to it the next day if I'm like right in the middle of something. Or sometimes what I'll do is I'll just tell myself, like, this is what you need to do tomorrow. Because when you wake up at that early, you're kind of like, where am I? What am I doing? So if I leave a little note for myself, like, here's what you need to do, then you can kind of jump right back in.
Yeah, you need those little breadcrumbs left in the sand,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know. Yeah, that. Um, I've heard that you listen to a lot of true crime podcasts.
I do. Yeah.
Yes. What do you like about, because I have to say, every time I listen to one, I read the people true crime stories, like how somebody was killed and stuff like that. Sometimes I think if they traced my history, my search history, they'd
Yeah.
sit there and go, "What are you doing?" What do you
Yeah.
like about them? Because
I like listening to them as a writer. I like understanding how they tell a story because some of the multi-episode seasons of like Serial and whatnot, like they're really masterful at telling a good story. And so
Mhm,
I'm always learning, right? Like how are they choosing to unravel this and present it in an order that is compelling and keeps people wanting to come back and keep listening. And the other thing is just I like to listen just for ideas, like, oh, you know, um, I mean, it's always the husband or it's always the wife or they've hired somebody to kill
mhm,
them, right? Like that's just always how it is. Um, and so it's not really trying to figure out who killed them. Like it's pretty clear right at the very beginning, like, yeah, the wife or the husband, look at them.
mhm,
Um, but I think what's really fun about it is that there are all these extra pieces
mhm,
that sometimes give me ideas that I can think about or talk about. And then, it leads me sometimes to solutions.
mhm, mhm.
Yeah.
I remember listening to Serial way back at the beginning,
Yes.
and
Yes.
my younger son was in the car with me, and he goes, "What are you listening to? We're going on a very long road trip, and I thought I'd
Right.
enjoy this." And he says, "Wait a second, somebody's dead, and the other people are looking for it, and this is like a fun way to go on a road trip." And he was with one of his friends, and they had their headphones on, listening to music because I think they just thought, "Okay, mom's crazy,
I
that's it."
love it. Yeah. No, I 100% would. I listen to it in the car on my way to pick up my kids. I try to turn it off when they're in the car. Um, but it's interesting.
It's
Yeah.
interesting writing. And I think that also it's our competition right now in the book world
Yeah.
is, are you going to listen to podcasts? What are you going to do? So you have to be as sharp as what's going on.
Yeah.
So I know you don't outline in advance. I know you don't do that. Where's your editing process as you finish writing or as you're going along? Are you seeing your peaks and your valleys, or there's a gap and say, I come back to that? What do you do?
Yeah. Sometimes I'll put like insert, challenging conversation here, right? Because I just want to keep going.
Okay.
But I also like 90% of the book that it ends up being is not what it was to start. I originally had a Lydia POV, I took that all out. Um, and even with this one, I changed who the killer was
Mm-hmm.
pretty
Mm-hmm.
deeply into it because I
Mm-hmm.
realized that who I wanted it to be, it really couldn't be that person.
Yeah, interesting. So
Yeah.
you're saying they're going, okay, they have to go back and undo all those little red herrings and
Not necessarily because like they still serve me, right? So they're just different red herrings.
and so you write early in the morning, you slip in notes during the day if you think of something. Do you
Not
just
really. I mean, my day job is so all encompassing
right?
that I really am not thinking about it at all. And I actually really prefer that.
Mm-hmm.
It's
How
just
about
nice to
summer?
be
Because then
completely. Oh, yeah. Summer, 100%. Yeah. And vacations, I'm writing. Yeah.
they can do them both that time. They both
Oh,
do them.
yeah. Yeah.
So, okay, this has been 3 years between books. Did this take the 3 years to write?
Yeah. It 100% did.
And do you
Yeah.
find it's harder as time goes on because you want to ramp up your craft, or was it just a more challenging book to write?
Um, I think it was a more challenging book to write. And also I want to ramp up my craft, right? So I'm always kind of trying to push and not just write a different version of the same book. Um, and trying not to like stay in a lane too long. And I'm lucky that I have an agent who really doesn't care what lane I'm in. She just says, write what you want to write and let me worry about selling it. And I'm really,
Mhm.
really lucky.
You are really lucky. You are
Yeah.
really lucky. And you're
Yeah.
lucky that you do get the time to do what you need to do because your first book was so good. I mean, you came out of the gate with
Oh no, that wasn't my first book, Carol.
that wasn't your first book, first thriller?
Mhm.
First,
First thriller. Yeah.
first
My
thriller.
first book didn't sell well at all. It's
Okay.
called The Ones We Choose and it's an upmarket women's fiction. I mean, it's selling better now.
Yeah.
But
It's got your name
but
on it. Yeah.
I would say a year after publication, it had sold maybe 500 copies. I mean, not a lot. It
Wow.
it
Wow.
was so bad that we were almost not going to be able to submit Last Flight under my name.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah. That's the other time. But where does the pseudonym come in? But you were,
Yeah,
I remember the last flight just clicked. It was just that it's so well done, so well put together. The lies I tell, then, you were ramping up your craft. And here you're on a whole different level again. Put some pressure on yourself, dear. Put a little bit of pressure on yourself writing these books. What can I
yeah.
say? What can I say?
Well, I mean, I think that's how you don't get bored, you
Mhm,
know? I mean, I think I would be bored if I was just writing thriller after thriller after thriller. The book I'm working on right now is a speculative thriller. So,
mhm,
like again, I'm sort of trying to play around a little bit and a lot of it has to do with like what I'm enjoying reading. And right now I'm
mhm,
really enjoying reading speculative fiction.
mhm.
So, you
Try your
know,
hands. Try your
yeah,
hands. See what'll
yeah,
happen. Yeah. I
yeah,
mean, there are authors that have written books from three different points of view, and the third one is the one you saw. And if
yeah,
you
for
saw the other
sure.
ones, you would not know that there was one author that wrote the book first from the perspective of the boy, then the perspective of the girl, then the perspective, and the third book was completely different, but
Yeah,
it was
yeah.
what it really needed to
What I
be.
needed to be. And it was the process that they needed to go through in order to get to the end product.
Right.
And
Now,
I
how do you,
feel like I will never be able to write a book a year because, and I have great admiration for people who do and people who can, but for me, I can't let something marinate enough in a year
yeah.
because we're taking into consideration too, not just drafting and revising, but production as well.
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
mean, that's insane.
Hmm.
But, so for me, it's at least 2 years. I prefer three,
Hmm.
but, we'll see.
But you also have to see, then there's the touring when you're not doing any writing or you're
Right.
barely able to do any writing
Yeah.
and move things ahead. And I see a lot of people moving out of that 12 month. I see them moving into 18. I see movement into 24 simply because turning it out that quickly is, let's put it, there's too much put on an author. What I said when we started our website 29 years ago, on the back it said, Julie Clark lives in California. She has a dog and two sons. Like that would basically all we ever knew about
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
That was it. So you can write a book a year. If nobody's going to know anything about you, you go on a little tour that's not like there's no way to find out about it except from the store. And you
Right.
think about the way the world has changed. And 29 years, yeah, it's a long time, but the way the world has changed is cataclysmically different from where it was before, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
And that's, I think, the challenge is how can you get all the other things done the besides the writing? And that's the huge challenge right now. So when you
Yeah.
finish writing, your agency sees it first, your editor, who sees
Mm,
first?
mm, 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 mm. No, I mean I send it to some trusted readers first and we go back and forth for a while. And then I like to hire an outside editor and we go back and forth for a while. And only then will I send I mean I'll send it to my agent somewhere in there. Um, but only after all of that's been done will I send it to my editor because I know that she has limited time to
Yeah.
spend on any one book. And
Yeah.
so if I send it to her in a condition that needs a lot of work, she's only going to be able to put a little bit of work into it, and then it's not going to be a good book.
Hmm.
That's all she can do. So I have to get it as far as I can on my own with all of my resources, and then I will send it to her. And she still will have 13 pages of notes, right? So imagine, and her notes at that point are pretty specific and pretty minute and really deep because I've taken care of all of the noise that
Right.
she probably wouldn't have been able to see past to see what a book really can be.
Wow. Different than it used to be. It used to
For
be you
sure.
turned
Yeah.
it well, it used to be you turned it in, then you went to lunch, then you had a couple of cocktails, and then
Mhm.
you went back and you did some work on it, and they gave you some story, like make these changes and stuff. And it's completely
Totally
business has
different
gotten
from what
more.
I know. I've only been doing it for like 5, 7 years, so I wouldn't know.
Yeah, but it was the days of cocktails. It was we used to joke when I first started working at the magazine that you didn't ask anybody questions. You did all the questions to the senior staff in the morning because the afternoon everybody had cocktails at lunch and nobody cared about giving you answers. So literally at 11:59, you made sure all your questions were done. It was a
Yeah.
different time, a different place,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
So the title, The Ghostwriter, was that always the title?
For me, it was source
Yeah.
books needed a little convincing, but yeah.
No, I think it's such a dead on perfect title. Was this
Yeah.
the first cover you saw?
No,
No, played
no,
around with the cover.
we had to work hard for that one too. Yeah.
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 I just really love it. I love the way the pages are
Me
going up
too.
in flames. I really,
Yeah.
and I love that New York Times bestselling author at the top. I love that too, you know.
Me too.
So, um, okay, so the cover, it takes some time to get it to, get to the spot, get to this place. And are you seeing, or was it black and white before, or were there colors? What was different?
I mean, there was a lot of like initial ideas were like a lot of houses with a light on in the window upstairs, and I just kept saying like I want to move away from that,
Mhm,
dark
mhm,
cars driving down dark roads. Like again, I want to
mhm,
move away from that. I wanted something different, and I
mhm.
loved the artist who did the last flight cover, and so I went to her website and started looking and found this one and said this is perfect. So this needs to be my cover.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Hmm.
And I have an early galley with lots of fold down pages things I've like curious.
Yeah. Here's the finished
You've got the gorgeous.
copy.
It's
Yeah.
gorgeous.
So they surprised me with these sprayed edges. Like I thought, oh, if they do sprayed edges, it'll just be like orange or black or,
Mhm.
it'll have a little design. But like this is full on text and fire and flame. And it's just,
Beautiful.
it's unbelievable. Yeah.
Yeah,
Unbelievable. They did a great
because
job.
books are becoming like works of art. They're becoming things that people
They
uh
collect. Yeah.
they're objects. They're not just the words that are on the page. It's
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to want to have this on my shelf. And I've seen so many, which is interesting the way they did the text because people are shelving their books, the spine in, that part out.
Hmm.
Very interesting. And it's
Yeah.
changed
Yeah.
how you're handling books. I mean,
Yeah.
there's a book that came out recently, and there were four different versions of the book. And I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. And it was like,
Yeah.
yeah, well, this one at the beginning, let me show you what's different in each one. And it was just astounding to me that that's the book itself at a time when a lot of people are and listening to audio. They're doing both of those. The book itself has become a different objet, let's say, as far as an
Yeah.
objet d'art, you know?
Well, and it helps too because it's a limited print run. So like once it's gone, and then you're just going to
Mhm.
get regular edges.
Mhm.
Um, and so I think that helps drive sales as well because people, like for instance, people who chose it for book of the month are now going out and buying a copy because they want one with the sprayed edges.
Mhm.
So, it helps, I think,
Yeah.
you
It helps
know.
sales because it's people are seeing it as something to display, something that they're excited about. They're excited
Yeah,
about the look of it, besides
yeah,
just the cover.
yeah.
So the audiobook is narrated by three people, Ellen Archer, Katie Schnorr, and Josh Hurley. Did you like having an ensemble cast that they
Always, always love an ensemble cast. I feel like it just lends depth to an audiobook. And for me, I don't do a lot of audiobooks. I am, and so I'm a podcast person,
yeah.
and podcasts are like full productions, right? You've got music, you've got tone, you've got interviews, and like that's the listening experience that I like to have. And so anytime I can bring more than one voice in, I'm going to want to do that.
Yeah, and I feel like that's what people are starting to expect is it's a full experience if you're going to go
Yeah.
sit and do something. So
Yeah. Yeah.
so you were recently on tour and I saw you were touring with a couple of people. You were with Kimberly Bell, you're with Janelle. Tell us what it's like.
Oh, it wasn't with Janelle Brown. We were across the country from each other. Janelle Brown and I should have been together,
Oh,
but
I saw those
we
pictures. I thought
were
you were
not.
together.
No, no, we wanted to be together, but we were not booked together. And
Okay.
so we decided to have our own tour together apart. So every day she would send me some picture and tell me like what was the big disaster for that day or whatever, right? And so, excuse me, it's just fun. We're gonna do an Instagram live tonight at 5:30 too.
Fun.
Yeah,
Fun. It's
it's got a
fun.
fun spot.
You're with Kimberly Bell in Poison Pen. I did see the two of you there. Yeah.
Yeah, that was fun.
It's fun, but sometimes it's fun when you've got a co-conspirator with you. Like,
It is.
okay, let's take a bet. Your flight late or my flight late? You get your baggage, I get my baggage. Like, let's just sit there and say, room service still available or not? Well, let's play the
Yeah.
game, you know?
Yeah, no, it's actually nice because it can be lonely. I mean, you're not there long enough to really get lonely because you're in
Mhm.
the morning or you're in mid-afternoon, and then, you have time to maybe have a little bite to eat, shower, change, get ready, do your event, come back, go to sleep, wake up the next morning and do it all again, get on an airplane
Right.
and go somewhere else. So it's not like you're anywhere long enough to really spend any time there,
Mhm.
but the pace of it is pretty frenetic.
Yeah, it's pretty frenetic, but especially in these days of air travel with weather and, just anything else that happens
Yeah.
along. Then you also want to spend time with the store people, the people
Yes.
that you don't get to spend a lot of time with. And if you have
Yes.
5 minutes, that's who you want to be sitting down and talking to
Yeah.
and sharing like what's working, what are you seeing, what are your readers excited about in the store?
Yeah. 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 No, that's always the best part is the booksellers and the readers.
And also to see how readers are reacting in different parts of the country. Like, what are they saying when I get together with them in an event here
Um,
and here?
yeah.
And as time goes on, people have read the book. It's like the second week they start to have read the book. The third week they have different questions for you, and
Yeah.
they are always saying, "I don't want to give anything away, but I need to know
Right.
this."
Yeah. Yeah. And that's always really fun.
Yeah, always really, really good. So you're already working on what's next, even though we will be waiting for it.
You will be waiting for it.
We
But
will
yeah.
be waiting for it, but.
Yeah.
Look, you did a terrific job, and it's nice to see somebody improving on their craft all the time. And you really do. You really
Yeah.
do. And
Thank you.
I know it wasn't the first one, but the last flight, that was a pretty big one too.
No, I mean, that was really like my first book to land and hit and be, it's still selling gangbusters and it's 5 years.
Yeah,
So, I think we're pretty close to 1 million copies sold at this point.
isn't that crazy?
Yeah, yeah, it's amazing.
It's
It's
it's it's amazing because I remember just hearing you sitting and talking about it. And then when you wrote the alternate ending, I loved that. Like
yeah,
what if this happened? What if that
yeah, that
happened?
was fun. That was really fun.
I think it gets the readers thinking, definitely.
Yeah, yeah.
I hope I catch you sooner than later, someplace.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
Come Easter, I'll try and come west. We'll figure it out.
Yeah, well, I'll be in New York on June
I'll see
19th,
you the
20th.
19th. I will see you
Yeah,
at Thorfest.
yeah,
Thorfest. Yes, I will
yeah,
see you
I'll
at
be
the
there.
cocktail party.
Yes, I will be there.
No, we'll be there.
Yay.
Okay, it's a date. It's a date. Thank
Okay.
you so much for joining me. I know you've got a hectic
Thank
schedule. I
you.
really
I do.
appreciate the time.
Thank you. Thank you.
To everybody else, see you next time on Book Reporter Talks to.